Hello, grade 8 learners. Welcome to our session today. My name is Tuto Masudubele, and today we'll be doing equations. Now, the presentation outline, introduction to equations, then we'll be solving a few equations, grade 8 learners, and then lastly, we'll be dealing with the quiz as well. Now, what is an equation, grade 8 learners? An equation is a statement that two expressions are equal, connected by an equal sign. For example, 5 plus 2 is 7. And we know that 10 minus 3 is also 7. So in other words, those two statements are true. Hence, we are referring to this as an equation. Now, these are just some of the questions we'll be solving in this session, grade 8 learners. So let's hope that you pay attention and you concentrate so that you're able to solve equations on your own as well. Now, the first one is a typical linear equation, grade 8 learners. By now, you should be able to find equations, but let's go through this. We need to find the value of x that will make this statement, these two expressions, to be true. So in other words, what must x be in order for us to have 9 on both sides of the equation sign? Now you learned about additive inverses as well as multiplicative inverses as well. So in this case, we are going to add the additive inverse of 4 both sides, and the additive inverse of 4 both sides is -4. So we add -4 to both sides of the equation in order for us to isolate for the value of x. 4 minus 4 will give you 0, so we'll be left with x, and 9 minus 4 will give us what? Will give us 5. And by that, we have then solved this linear equation using the additive inverse of 4 both sides. Now let's look at the next equation, grade 8 learners. With the next equation, we need to find the value of y that will make this statement to be true. So in other words, we need to find the value of y that will ensure that the left-hand side of the equation is equal to the right-hand side of the equation. And on the right-hand side, we have what? We have 14 there. So we need to find how much y must be in order for this statement to be true. Now, what we first do, grade 8 learners, is that we add the additive inverse of 8 both sides in order for us to isolate for 2y. So 8 minus 8 will give us 0, 14 minus 8 will then give us 6. So what we've done, we added the additive inverse of 8 both sides, and then we left with 2y is equal to 6. But we're still not done. Remember, we need to find the value of y. So what we need to do, grade 8 learners, is that we need to isolate for y by multiplying with the multiplicative inverse, both sides. And the multiplicative inverse of 2 will then give us a half. So 2 times a half will give us 1. And what you do on the left-hand side of an equation must be done on the right-hand side as well in order for the statement or for the equation to be in balance. So 2 times half is 1. We'll be left with 1y, and half times 6 will then give us 3. And by that, we have found the value of y that will ensure that the statement is true. Here's a next equation, grade 8 learners, and this we regard this as an exponential equation. Now, how do we solve exponential equations, grade 8 learners? Very important that you must get your bases to be the same. Remember, when you have an exponential expression, you have a base and an exponent. And the base together with the exponent are being referred to as the power. So in this case, we need to get 81 to be the same base as the base of 3. So what do? You prime factorize your 81, and that will give you 3 to the power of 4. Now notice we have the same bases on the left-hand side of the equation and on the right-hand side of the equation. Now, once the bases are the same, grade 8 learners, what we do is that you then equate your exponents. So p plus 1 equal to 4. And now we need to find the value of p that will ensure that this statement is true. And by now, you know that we need to add the additive inverse of 1 both sides in order for us to isolate for p. And then p will then give you 3 because 4 minus 1 is equal to 3. So quite a nice exponential equation there, grade 8 learners. Now let's look at this equation. Now this is being referred to as a quadratic equation because the degree of this equation is 2. So how do we solve this? Well, in this case, we have x squared plus x squared equal to 50. X squared and x squared are both like terms, so we're able to add the 2, and that will give us 2x squared equal to 50. So we added the two like terms, and that gave us 2x squared equal to 50. But now what needs to happen? We need to isolate for x squared. And to isolate for x squared, we multiply by the multiplicative inverse of 2, both sides of the equation. So half times 2, we know that will give us x squared, and half times 50 will then give us 25. Now what's left is that we need to then find the square root on both sides of the equation, what the value of x should be in order for this equation to be balanced. So to find the square root both sides, simply find the square root both sides, grade 8 learners, and the square root of 25, we know it will give you positive 5. But very important that when you square root plus or minus, because it simply means we have two solutions that will give us, that will ensure that the statement is true. So the first answer will be x equal to negative 5, or the second answer will be x is equal to 5. Both solutions are valid. They will ensure that the equation is, or the statement given in the equation is true. If you substitute negative 5 in the place of x, you will realize that you will get positive 50. Same applies if you substitute positive 5 in the place of x and you simplify that expression, that will still come out as 50. Very important that you know how to solve quadratic equations as well. So other equations can be in the form of geometric shapes as well. Here we're dealing with the geometry of 2D shapes as well as the geometry of straight lines. And the first question here says you need to find the value of x. Now, when you look at the example that's given here, you will realize that 2x minus 30 and 2x minus 80 and x minus 20. 2x minus 30 is then the exterior angle. Remember the properties of your triangles, grade 8 learners. The exterior angle of a triangle is always equal to the sum of the two opposite interior angles. That is why we have here 2x minus 80 plus x minus 20 will be equal to 2x minus 30 because it's an exterior angle of a triangle. And then what we need to do here, we need to combine your like terms. If you combine your like terms, that is what we'll have. We'll have here 3x, because 2x plus x will give us 3x. And then negative 80 minus 20 will give us negative 100. So then what we need to do is that we need to isolate for both x and y. So we'll check what we've done. We have now subtracted 2x both sides. And then we have added 100 on both sides in order for us to be left with x is equal to 70. So here it's just a matter of adding your like terms and then simplifying your expression as well. So now good, we have found the value of x. Now notice in the other question here, secondly, we need to find the value of y. Now in order for us to find the value of y, notice that 2y minus 10 degrees and 2x minus 80 degrees, these are adjacent supplementary angles. So in other words, these are angles on the same straight line. So what do we do when we have adjacent supplementary angles? We know that when you add the two angles, you equate them to 180. So this is why we have 2y minus 10 plus 2x minus 80 is equal to 180 degrees. Remember your reasons as well, angles on a straight line. And then what we need to do, since we found the value of x as 70, we substitute 70 in the place of x. So we'll have 2 multiplied by 70 marked in red in the presentation there. And then we simplify our expression. 2 times 70 will give us 140. And then from then on, we need to add your like terms. And when adding our like terms, we'll realize that we'll have 2y will be equal to 50. And then how do we then find y? By now you know that you need to multiply by the multiplicative inverse. And if you multiply by the multiplicative inverse both sides, remember what's the multiplicative inverse of 2? It's a half. So we multiply by a half both sides. So we'll be left with y is equal to 50. So grade 8 learners, with that, it brings us to the end of our lesson today on mathematics, on equations. And very important that you go through that quiz please scan the QR code as well as the link there so that you're able to answer the 5 questions in the quiz. Grade 8 learners, I look forward to seeing your responses, and all the best. Keep on practicing mathematics and you will do well in the subject if you do that. Thank you.